you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Junior. I'm an art director, and I've been living in Japan for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And that's really long, I know, just like my actual name. It's Vanderlei Benengucci, it's very long. And yeah, I love Japan, and I'm gay. Very gay. Very gay.
My name is Julia Abe. I'm mainly considered a model, but I also do my art. Not so much of my art recently, but a lot of modeling, not just in Japan, worldwide.
I do Japanese calligraphy, in Europe most likely, and in Tokyo I do model.
My name's Chanel, and I'm an artist, and I've been an artist for, I want to say I started when I was 23.
Okay.
I am now 36, so do the math.
My name is Koro Nishimura. I'm a makeup artist and also a Buddhist monk.
I'm Solène Balesta and I'm a photographer. I'm from Paris and I live here in Tokyo for a bit less than a year.
My name is Misha Jeanette. I'm a creative director and I also run an agency that creates content. So I come up with ideas for marketing campaigns. I'm mostly in the beauty industry right now. So I focus on beauty content, and my agency makes the ideas that I have become a reality by hiring the people that I need to make that thing become reality.
My name is Yumiko Sakuma. I was born in Japan, raised in Tokyo. I'm a writer. I'm based in New York, but I travel a lot. I go back and forth a lot.
Yeah, I am Rina Sawayama. I am a singer from Tokyo, but I've been based in London since I was about 4 years old now. And yeah, I sing and write songs.
浜田愛菜、27歳でモデルとインフルエンサーをやってます。
So we are the co-hosts of Super Smash Hosts. We're a feminist podcast where we talk about societal issues in Japan that have to do with things like gender or education, politics, anything that comes to our mind really, and we kind of openly talk about it on our podcast. So that's what we do.
Covered that pretty well. We're both students. Maybe I'll do a bit more personal. Yeah, Erica studies at Sophia University in Tokyo, and I'm doing my master's in London.
What does LGBTQ empowerment mean to you?
That's a tricky one. Because I believe that the word empowerment incites given power. It's, having your rights. But it's very hard to talk about it in Japan since there is no recognition, there are barely no rights, no real rights. So let's talk about empowerment, which is giving power and giving one's rights to it.
When I was in high school, I was Googling gay, whatever. And I knew that in different countries, LGBTQ people are more accepted. But because I hadn't experienced first-handedly, I was still timid. But after going to New York, Boston, Spain, Barcelona, I was able to meet many people. My professor was a gay person. My friends were gay or transgendered. And when I went to the gay pride parade, there were a sea of people celebrating and encouraging our existence. So that experience, that interaction, that really helped me to be proud and to be fearless. Because if I know that this many people, this many successful professionals who are leaders of the world today are openly gay or openly LGBTQ and succeeding and making our lives better, then I have nothing to be ashamed of. And I'm even more I felt happier. But meeting people, going there, seeing the scene, that experience, that was really crucial to me.
It's just like human rights, really. I don't think anyone should be judged on their sexual orientation or gender identity. It's pretty simple. I've grown up around people who have different like gender identification or sexual expression, and I've never ever been I guess I've been in a very privileged bubble in a way that I've never thought that they were like any different to, you know, my friends or anything like that. So it was a real shock to me when I became like an adult and I saw that that wasn't the way that people were treated, or I'd see like how they'd get treated on the street, and if we weren't in a gay district, and how my friends would be treated. And it was just it enraged me so much knowing what my mom, who is Japanese, and the racism that she encountered when she first moved to the UK, and feeling rage about that. It's quite similar to how the rage I feel against like homophobia and transphobia or any sort of like attack.
Right. What does female empowerment mean to you?
Female empowerment means to me just simply women who really are unapologetic about their worth, them really owning their worth, stepping into a place like that, because for so long it's just been such a male dominated world, you know.
Yes.
And so for women to really be able to step into that and knowing what that means and what that looks like what is my worth, what does that mean to me? And the more that I see women step into that and how unapologetic that they are in that, the more I see women empowerment.
Yes, I do draw a lot of female entities in my art. Especially, I like to draw them naked as they are, as you know, females, and show their beauties, because I do feel in my life that there are so many things, especially in Japan, that makes me feel not so comfortable about being a woman. In the modeling industry, there is a lot of woman has to have their place, and there's always a cap put on to, you know, like us. If you want to be bigger than what you want, you're not really allowed to. And I guess that's when I first encountered difficulties with being a woman, was when I started modeling.
Well, mean to me is, to be honest, like, meaning is, I don't know, to be honest, because there is no meaning. There is supposed to be.
Women empowerment for me is like, actually it's pretty simple. It's just doing whatever you want, you know? It's like, feel free. It doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, like transgender or whatever. You have your own freedom and you can do whatever your mind tells you. For me, that's empowerment. If ever something just doesn't allow you to reach your goals, or to just like, I don't know, having your life the way you want, it's not empowerment. It's just a way of feeling, okay, I feel that I'm my own master, you know what I mean? That's empowerment. It can take many, many ways, of course, but for me, that's freedom.
やっぱりその女性もちゃんと意見をする。上の人だったり、大体みんなやっぱ意見を特に日本は言わない。みんな言わなくて、上司に怒られたら怖いとかでもう従っちゃう。だから特に女の子は多いと思う。そのセクハラされたりとかで多いと思うから、その意味で自分でもちゃんと嫌なことは嫌という、イエスかノーで言えることかなと思ってます。女性もちゃんと意見を言えるようになる。
So personally, I've lived in the States and Germany for 1 year in each place, and that's what I have to compare it to. And I think from what I know, female empowerment in Japan is quite progressive, like amongst the people who are active in feminism and identify as feminists and whatnot. But amongst the rest of the population, I feel like it's almost non-existent from what I've noticed and seen. And I feel like individuals and big media companies market a lot of their content towards female consumers, so they'll like moteru, like be attractive for men. So that's what I've noticed, and there's pretty much not any discussion amongst the general public about female empowerment, I think. So that's what I've noticed.
And I think I would agree a lot with Erica. I think the feminist or like the female empowerment movements are much stronger. They're part of the mainstream a lot more. Like, um, you see like the women's marches and like even like Instagram or social media, Twitter, in these countries is like often more engaging with these issues. Not that there isn't a women's march in Tokyo, there is one, but I do find it's more niche, and I think the issues also. There's one thing that I found really specific to Japan. Feminism has like class and race, differences. So a black woman will experience something differently than a white woman will. But because Japan is almost entirely a homogenous country, except for the, like foreigners who live there, there's almost some kind of like unanimous experience of like what Japanese women experience.
At what point in your life did the concept of female empowerment first have an impact on you?
I think back in the 90s, when I started to go to the United States, I learned of a movement that had been around that was started by women not to wear bras. But it was wearing a bra was something that you were supposed to do. And that's how I was taught that concept of having to wear the bras. But I learned that there was a group of women who rebelled against it. And that was sort of, I think, the first encounter. And also like made me realize the rules don't always have to apply.
I think it was like back in 2013 when I met this Swedish artist called Arvida Byström, and her photography really influenced the way I thought about feminism. Back then I wasn't even like familiar with the concepts at all. I don't think I even identified as a feminist until pretty much 2013. And then she, through her photography and then eventually our friendship, taught me what kind of modern feminism was.
I would say it's quite hard to pinpoint when exactly. I feel like throughout my early adult life, like in university, I think I started to realize that people view me as a woman, and like I started to get like stares and stuff from men, having these uncomfortable experiences. And I think reading a lot online or talking about it with friends about our mutual shared similar experiences, and then just reading about like empowerment online, that kind of hit me, I guess, with it.
I always kind of knew that there was inequality, but I don't think I ever felt it like too heavily until I actually moved to Japan. And like that was like the biggest impact, like being on the trains and getting like harassed, and like even just feeling like I couldn't always wear what I wanted when I was in Japan. I mean, I could, no one was stopping me, but I felt the stares, things like that I almost took for granted at home, even though I knew inequality existed.
Do you think female empowerment is prominent in the Japanese industry?
It is like worldwide becoming better, but not as fast as everywhere else in the world, I feel. In Japan, I feel like one of the worst parts of it is that there is a lot of people on TV, for example. There's a lot of women on TV, for example, that are not allowed to date, are not allowed to be seen with men or even other females hanging out at night, because that would just be considered a chaos. And I never understood why we are not allowed to hang out.
Not anymore. Used to be, was much more clearly you could see that the power, power difference. And also even in industry, I used to work in a TV show. I had a regular TV show, every week I was talking about football, European football. I was doing MC. And so that time my situation was a little bit better in a sense, but before that was, absolutely, work so hard and like in producers, like go hang out with producer and drinking together and so on and so on. And sometimes, like some occasion, people did offer me like, if you do certain things, you can get certain things. And so that was very surprised. Like I knew that it exists, but I was kind of shocked.
Just from the 10 years of working in Japan, Japanese women are very strong women. However, I think that in my 10 years experience out there, a lot has changed.
Yes.
But when I was, first out there, I felt women were very silenced. I felt they kind of accepted that too, because it's just a part of the culture. They may have a lot of opinions. They may have a lot of, things that they want to express. But Japan is a very conservative country. I remember when people was interviewing me, just kind of little things that's kind of like normal to me, like working out, me, cussing a lot. I cuss a lot.
Yeah.
Me being very blunt and honest and straightforward. Me being a tomboy. It's all very like, I guess male traits.
Okay, yeah.
And so it was always very profound to them. It's like, oh my God, you work out and you lift weights? Yeah? Or they'll say something like, wow, that was really honest. It was just like straight to the point. I was like, well, what do you want me to do? Beat around the bush? But, so I had to, it was a very interesting learning experience for me to see how the culture is, because I feel like, I think that it is expected for women to be silent out there.
Right.
And, half of me is like, it's the culture. Hopefully more and more women start feeling uncomfortable in a good way, so that they can actually step out of that and start really like stepping into their own zone and their own worth, and not being afraid to just really truly be themselves and speak their minds. I think Japan has like a beautiful culture, and I love how courteous they are and how much they are empathetic and all of that. I feel like all of those traits are really powerful traits that I feel people in the US can, balance out a little bit more, but, compared to the US has more of like this freedom. And I mean, speaking of like female empowerment, I mean, even in the US, women are only kind of now, you hear the Me Too's, you hear the, all of these women movements and all of that. It's really only been, really exploding in the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, times change, and I'm grateful that we are growing as human beings, as women. I'm so glad that we are allowing ourselves to just step out of the norm, or what was considered the norm.
Yeah.
What the hell is normal, right? I don't know what it is about the U.S., but whatever happens in the U.S., it slowly trickles down to the rest of the world.
It does.
And, and I feel Japan, I think it's going to take some time, but it'll get there. And I'm already seeing, women that are super independent out there, but they're very quiet, independent women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, very quiet.
They don't really step up, and not that they need to necessarily, but I just, there's just certain things that I like to kind of encourage women out there. Hey, don't be afraid to say this, because I feel like there's just sometimes a little too much acceptance, or too much kind of like trying to bury things, as opposed to, no, this needs to be talked about, and they might not like to hear it, and it might be a little uncomfortable, but it's definitely going to be a learning experience. And you have to treat, how do they say that term? You got to teach people how to treat you. So it's like, if you don't teach people how to treat you, they're going to continue to treat you however they choose. That it's in your hands to kind of maneuver that. So
Definitely.
Just from what I hear, it seems that, women here get the short end of the stick in a lot of situations. And you kind of have to be a bad boss bitch to be respected. And a lot of the women who run, for example, PR companies, fashion PR companies, like, they're a bit scary. you know, they can be quite scary. And as someone who doesn't have that personality, you kind of wonder, like, okay, in Japan, do I need to be a bad boss bitch, you know, to be respected? And maybe that's true.
I do think that the idea of female empowerment is a little bit behind in Japan, where I do think it's one of my missions to convey what's going on in the United States and the other parts of the world. It's not easy because Japan is an island and there's this island mentality where we're ourselves and we do things in our own way. So it's hard to like impose foreign concepts on people. I think Japanese women share the same ideas and they know what they want. They want to be treated equally. But in terms of how to tell that and communicate that to the society, there's like a big struggle going on. But I think it's changing, and I think we are making a lot of progress.
I definitely don't think it's prominent in Japanese society. Women do want to be housewives, and I feel like in Western cultures, sometimes that's looked down upon if you're a feminist or if you're in like a feminist community sometimes. So I guess it's easier to be in a typical female like role in that sense, but still like that's not for the same reasons, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it exists in pockets. Like if you're looking for it, you can find it. But like you see a lot of these companies jumping onto like pride or feminism in the West, and like it's seen as a cool thing to do. And you don't see that as much in Japan because feminism itself is not as broad. But I think that's a good thing because it gives the feminists who are working in Japan the opportunity to really like shape the movement, to start from the roots and be more wholesome and like learn from the experiences of like the West or other countries.
されてない気がするな、そんなに。まあ昔よりかはかなりその知名度が上がったから、知名度とかそういう全然みんな平等でなんて言ったらいいの、いろんな多様性があって、いろんな個々のなんて言ったらいいの、個性があって、日本全体で見たらちょっとぐらいなんじゃないかな。そんなにいやもう世界ということは全然な感じはします。日本はもう、なんかまだなんか子供がどうたらこうたらみたいな感じなんで、これからっていう、これからもないんじゃないかなとも私は思ってます。結構もう日本にあんまり期待をしてない、本当にはいすみません。そうもう
You've been a photographer in Paris and in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Are there any differences felt while working in these two cities?
Yeah, of course. Actually, the mind is very, very different. So, mostly about nudity. By the way, it's very complicated here to find like girls or even boys that accept to take like naked pictures, because the way of thinking the body of nudity is very different. But also, I think people in Tokyo are really more open-minded concerning art. I mean, it's really more easy to get exhibited and to have like very nice collaboration with amazing people like the artists and stuff. People are really more open-minded to work, but yeah, that link to like nudity and sexuality is kind of difficult, I have to say. I mean, less than in France.
So like women empowerment is more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this idea of like showing off your body and like being proud of it, like with no big deal. There's kind of big deal in Tokyo.
And you grew up in Brazil and spent your earlier years there. How is the LGBTQ community different or similar in Brazil versus Japan?
People in Brazil are far more open, and there is far more understanding within the community, because I can't say the community has existed for longer, because that would be a lie, but the community has had exposure for longer. And there is always the cultural fact and the society fact of it, which is in Brazil, being gay is not a part of who you sleep with, is a part of who do you love.
And there are many videos videos where you talk about your life and experiences as a gay Buddhist monk. What was it like growing up?
When I was young, around 3 years old, I used to tell my mother, Koro, I'm a girl. In Japanese it was, Ko-chan onna no ko yo. And I would wear my mother's mini skirt, so it becomes like a long dress for me. And I will wear like a cloth to wrap kimono and monk robes, which is called furoshiki. And I will wrap it around my head, and it was pink. So I felt like Ariel from The Little Mermaid. And I would dance to Bonjour, the music from Beauty and the Beast. And I would twirl and I would sing and I was so happy. That's my childhood. But when I went to high school, men and women started to kind of separate. And I wasn't able to belong to the boys group because I didn't play football, I didn't care about football, and I didn't watch TV. Everybody else was watching. And during high school time, girls became a little more proud of who they are and kind of secretive. So it was kind of not cool for them to include men into their groups. So I lost all of my friends. When I was at high school, I ate lunch alone and I had nothing to do, but I didn't want to let people think that I'm lonely, I don't have any friends. So I would walk around in the building, so it looks like I have something to do, but I didn't have anything to do for the 3 years. So when I was going back home, walking to the subway, everybody was like chatting and talking about which universities they are going to, but I didn't have anybody to talk to. So the sun was setting at around 4:30 and the light was so beautiful, like orange bright light. And it was so beautiful, but I felt so lonely and cold in my heart. And I was like, why do I have to feel this sadness? I feel like I'm nice, I feel like I'm funny and creative, friendly, but why do I have to be alone and feel this misery? When I was in Japan, I wanted to find a place or people who I can talk to. In Japan, I feel like I can't be honest and talk about my sincere opinions to everybody. But I felt that in the US, maybe I could be honest and people will listen to me and I can make friends and I can live like who I am. So that was my bringing up, and that's why I decided to study in the US.
For you, like, have you ever encountered like gender inequality or any prejudices during your career thus far? And if so, can you give us an example?
You know, for the longest time, like a girl has to look a certain way. They have to be, you know, majority of the time, they have to be like, you know, beautiful, you know, like they, whatever beautiful means, you know, they have to have this particular look. They have to be skinny, or they have to, you know, I love how like there's more mixture in the industry now of women, you know, with all kinds of different looks, you know, where they don't have to worry about being a freaking size 0. You know what I mean? And they can just focus on their artistry. But there's still not a lot of that going on. Guys, on the other hand, it's almost like it doesn't fucking matter what they look like. You know what I'm saying? It's just like they could just focus on their art. They could just ask for what they want, and people respect that. You know, you often hear about, oh, you know, she slept with so and so and she made it on the way up. And if guys was screwing a whole bunch of whoever female execs, we don't ever hear about it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just those kinds of conversations seems to be like so normal, but in a sense, it's just like it's so belittling and it's so like sexist, and it's really annoying. So it's stuff like that. I have personally experienced, I don't know if you call it gender inequality, but I've experienced kind of like just the male dominant power thing, you know, where when I was starting out as an artist, I'm all about my business. And so I won't mention any artist names.
Oh, yeah, no,
but
please don't.
you know, yeah, but it was like I had a meeting with this particular artist, and you know, I went with my friend, and you know, he said to meet at his hotel room because he happens to be in New York for, you know, just one night or whatever.
Right.
And there was a particular song that I was interested in collaborating with him to put out. So I went over there, and it was just a hot mess. It was like I went in there, and I was like, "Hey, thanks for having me. Blah blah blah. Won't take up too much of your time." You know, sat on the couch, and this guy just decided to put his head on my lap. You know, it's just that's that thing. You know, that's that thing where it's just like they feel so privileged, like they could just do that. And you know, I can't. I mean, there are some women who wouldn't mind that. And that's a whole other conversation. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, in some of these guys' defense, they'll be like, well, you know, women love that and blah blah blah. This that. What? You know, so it's really hard to kind of like stand your ground as a woman when there are some women out there that allows for those kinds of things to happen.
Yeah.
And here, you know, a woman like myself coming in, trying to talk business, and you know, like that whole hotel room thing. I mean, people also like have arguments about that. They're like, "Well, you should have known better. It's a hotel room. We're artists. We're always in a fucking hotel room." You get what I mean?
I know.
So, granted, I didn't go by myself.
Good.
Brought a friend.
Good.
You know, because in the back of my head, I did feel like you never know. And that's another thing. The fact that I have to protect myself, the fact that I have to have that in the back of my head, it's layer upon layer, girl. So definitely had some experiences for sure.
I think it wasn't exactly about women or men, you know, just your young new blood in the industry. So like people just, you know, like poke you around and how much you can go for, how much you can be patient and stuff like that. Just it was kind of testing. But at the same time, I felt more likely inside. So my two previous agency, so that was very much TV industry kind of agency. Then my boss was woman, and I really liked it. My boss was woman, and so she's really strong, and she, you know, she raised a child, and plus very powerful husband as well. But she was first time I saw that in industry, like women is like she knew that, you know, she cannot fight with all the other, you know, other agency. So she started to use some kind of only women can use that weapon. So pillow thing. She said instead of instead of doing to Cherry, do it to me or manager. So even though like whole agency was for protecting me, they were, you know, sacrifice themselves. And I thought it was like, at first, like, wow, I feel so protected. But at the same time, that was very strange. But I didn't notice, I didn't have question even that time. You know, much later I see more planet. Then I understand that that's a little bit strange.
I'm not sure if it's exactly gender, but I have had incidences where I, you know, would not be invited to a party by a brand when I was a fashion journalist or when I was a blogger, especially as a blogger, because the brand didn't think I had their look. Or that I couldn't pull off their clothes, or that I wasn't the right girl to even be in that space, so they wouldn't even invite me to an event.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I encounter those daily. Not anything major. Maybe last year, I went to a job, and a gentleman looked at me and he says, I didn't realize it was a woman. I was hired as a writer. And the fact that he thinks it's okay to say that to my face was, you know, obviously shocking to me. And I called him out on it. And I said, how does that make a difference? And I think I said that. I tried to say that with a big smile on my face so that he doesn't feel like threatened. And the idea that I have to put a big smile on my face when I say that is kind of crazy. But I realize, like, I'm not trying to make enemies. I want people to realize what they're saying and how that type of statement makes us feel. I don't think I was being diplomatic, but I think sort of putting a softer face on it might be a little helpful sometimes, which is bullshit, but practical.
I think like I'm currently job hunting, and I've definitely noticed when I go to like networking events or just career forums and stuff, I've noticed that I really feel like people comment on my appearances instead of asking me questions about like my skills or my career goals and stuff. So,
And I entered at Fujitsu like 2 summers ago in Tokyo, realizing the fact that there were very few women who were in senior positions at that company or even in general. It was kind of like looking into my own future, like looking at the barriers I would face.
I actually have experienced some criticism or some comments. Some person told me that homosexuality is a fruit of hormonal corruption. But I understand that these people are not experienced enough, they are not educated properly, and most of them or all of them are not happy themselves. I think people who are happy and free, you don't have to care about what others do. So people who feel limited, pressured, who can't be honest and have fun doing what they love, they are the ones who are going to drag your legs down. So I don't think you have to worry about the ones who are complaining about their own life.
As a writer, how do you show support for other females in your community as well as around the world?
You know, I think before Trump years started, there was this like idea of women having to compete for a small part of the whole pie that was given to us or that it was saved for us. I realized that's not true. We can help each other. We don't have to compete against one another. This idea of sisterhood, and that doesn't exclude non-female, but the idea of like united front, fighting for rights of those who are in worse positions than the majority of people. You know, the idea of sisterhood is very, very important.
まあさっきも言ったかもしれないんですけど、やっぱ意見を言う、ちゃんと自分の思ってることをSNS で伝えていくことが大切だなと思って、やっぱ昔だと女性ってやっぱ舐められやすい、そう力とかそのセクハラとかでなるから、やっぱり強く生きていく。まあメンタルでやられない。何言われたとしても、もうちゃんと自分の信念と軸を持って言っていくことが大切かなとは思ってます。
Try and collaborate and try and help people out, try and promote other people, always promoting like my friends and other people's music. And yeah, I don't know, I really think in this like social media world, we're very lucky that we can quickly promote people to like our fans. Can be quite counterintuitive when all your friends agree with you all the time. And I think it's not good to just push people out of your group just because they don't agree with you politically. I think it's important to use that as an opportunity for you to learn.
I truly believe that if you don't change locally, you cannot expand any ideas you have for any topic. And for me, it's quite the same. At work, I'm openly gay. And I like that because people ask me, oh, you are gay. Yes, and I get the chance to explain to them what does it mean to be gay, and being truth to who I am. That's number one. Also, trying to create let's say, a presence or a voice to what I believe, and that is, I don't know. On Instagram, I get lots of questions, and even on dating apps, people reach out like, "Oh, I watched your video online," or "I watched your interview, and this and that was nice." And some young straight girls come talk to me. "Hey, I loved your video. It was really nice. I really liked it." And for me, that is the best, because they are ready to listen. They are ready to be like, "Hey, I hear you, and you're a human being. You exist." So I think that is the one small thing I can do, and I believe other people could actually do it. I know it's a huge step. There is like a whole big thing on coming out at work. Maybe because I'm a foreigner, I get a free pass. But I also believe that if you just are really good at what you do, who you love and whatever the fuck you do has nothing to do with any of that.
I think the best way for me to support the LGBTQ community is for me to have fun. I would like to be proud, shameless. I'm also a Buddhist monk. If a Buddhist monk can be wearing makeup and heels, why can't you? So I just want to live happily and doing what I love to the fullest.
Who do you look up to the most, if you have anyone?
Myself. The reason why is because I used to victimize myself a lot at the beginning of my career, and with time I realized that that concept itself, it was not like a good mentality to have. With time I learned that instead of like feeling bad for myself, I would just have to be a stronger woman, and I think it worked. You know, it's happening, my career is happening, so yeah.
Not particular name, to be honest, but just like I said, all women who showed me that I can do more. These women, time to time, I have few, and I cannot pick one, but because of them, I'm here sitting like this and with this attitude and everything. But without them, I don't think I could do so much that, follow everything.
Okay. I was really thinking about this question, and I was like, should I say Oprah? And, should I say, I don't know, Whitney Houston? But, when I really think about it, especially in the topic of, women empowerment, I look up to women in general. I think that we're special creatures, man. We are. As I grow older, I just appreciate the female species so much. The ones that I noticed that I kind of tend to maybe go back and want to learn more about them or whatnot, are women that I have similarities with, women who are super ambitious, who often talks about what their dreams are, and women who encourage, people around them to, just be go-getters and do all that kind of stuff. So I noticed that I tend to kind of want to indulge myself in listening to women like that. But just overall, in general, just women are just, really some powerful creatures. I think that we're very underrated. The fact that, we hear stuff like, behind every good man is a good woman, right?
Right.
But there's so much to that, because people don't, it's like the whole, we don't know what happens behind closed doors kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like a lot of power is held in, women's words, in women's encouragement, in women's touch.
Oh yeah.
We're so powerful that we're probably one of the best manipulators in the world. You know what I mean?
I think so too.
But I think contemporary artists and thinkers are the people that I really look up to, like Zygmunt Baum and Elizabeth Gilbert and Martha Graham are people that I believe are still making very strong statements on not empowerment or who do you love or whatever, but who do you want to be? where do you want to be from now, and where do we want to be from now? Zygmunt Bauman has been talking about the liquid society and how we are actually in a liquid state, and society is changing the focus from acting one way into acting a different way, which is basically because of these little things over here. I like being inspired by those ideas that tickle my brain in a, like, wait, should I act like this? Like, or maybe we are all acting like this, and so on.
I consider my mentor here to be a woman named Francoise Morchan, and she's an older woman in the industry. She came here from France in the 50s. Wow. She was a pioneer here in Japan. She's very interesting. She always tells it like it is. She's gone through so much, so many ups and downs. She's written books here in the industry. I had the opportunity to interview her for the Japan Times newspaper when I was writing, and she was fascinating. She discovered new talent and cultivated new talent when she was younger, and those people went on to become extremely celebrated people in the industry. And here she is as a woman kind of behind the scenes cultivating this talent. But she deserves the she has received a lot of recognition. She has a lot of awards to her name, and I really look up to her as someone who really, really pushed through boundaries and made it so people like me can come here and work in Japan, because she was one of the first foreign female women in the fashion industry to work here.
Oh God, I admire all of them, but one particular is my dear friend Larkin Grimm, who came forward and shared her experience of being raped. And I admired her courage, and I also witnessed the backlash that she experienced in real life and online. It's not something that we can ask from every victim, because people do have different way of dealing with pains and being victims. But I admire the courage of women who tell their stories so that the society make progress and move forward for the future, for the better future.
Because, I look up to single mothers in general, or single fathers, just whoever just raises a child by themselves, because it's just such hard work. And the way that she was able to build a career for herself and provide for me and teach me lots of lessons. And because of, her, I'm very domesticated, and I can do a lot of things around the house because I had to be responsible and, do a lot of things on my own.
Actually, do you have a message to other LGBTQ people or those who support the community?
Yes, come out. That's it.
I would like to say that people need to start educating about STDs or HIV awareness, because we are already celebrating diversity, and we are already working on enjoying unique lives. But I know that HIV infection rate is higher in LGBTQ community. So I want people to learn about PrEP, which is not so common in Japan yet, but it's a pill that you can take every day to protect yourself from getting infected by 92% or something like that, depending on how you take it. There is PrEP on demand. PrEP is a pill that's distributed for free in the US, so the infection rate has been dropping. So I want people to now take care of their health, educate themselves with the right information so that we can enjoy our life in a healthy way.
To just keep going, and I never had much help in growing in my career because of the whole concept of people that are empowered had feelings about me either being a woman or not having famous parents or not being from a family that comes from the industry itself. So to just forget about asking for help, and it's okay to ask for help, but if nobody helps you, just don't be sad about that. Don't victimize yourself. Just be your own hero, be your own, person that will elevate your own career. Just do yourself.
I encourage for female empowerment to grow. I definitely feel like it's super important, especially for the rest of the world. I have nothing against culture, but sometimes culture can really be paralyzing in a sense, and because I was born in Malaysia and I grew up in Australia and I, worked in Japan, I love culture and I love traveling and I love learning about all that stuff. And when I encounter a lot of kind of women's lives, and they just have so much to teach. They have so much to share. They have so much to inspire. And I feel like if more and more women really truly see that within themselves, a lot of the world can change for the better, And so I encourage it. So all the female empowerment movement and all of those kinds of women, just please continue. Because it takes a lot of us, not just one of us, it takes a lot of us before we see a humongous change, and it's happening, so I wouldn't stop now.
みんな負けず、何を言われても負けず、もう自分が正しいと思った道をもうそのまま突き進んでいったらいいと思います。もう本当にもう私が悪いんかな、俺が悪いんかなとか考えずに、なんかこう言われちゃうかなとか他人の評価もう何も気にせず、これが私や俺やぐらいの勢いで言ってほしいです。
Respect each other. I think respect goes a long way. I think it's important to have equal voice, for many walks of life. So
I wanted them to be more strong, mentally also, but to see more it helps. To go many places, it helps. I know that we become shy sometimes, but say it. It works. It helps for yourself.
Being mindful of how to convey your messages in the feminist community, especially because in Japan, I feel like people who aren't familiar with feminism or think feminist activism is like basically matriarchy, like women are better than men kind of thing. So I think just being really inclusive of just everyone really, because feminism in the end is it should benefit everyone, not just women. And I think men should be able to express themselves however they want as well. The second point is maybe making space for growth and like trying to stick together in the feminist community. And I think there's often like this like kind of competition, not always, but I see that sometimes in the community. And I think we're working towards the same goal, and we can reach that same goal together if we work, more collaboratively. And, people are going to make mistakes and stuff, but learning from them, I think it will help the whole community grow.
It can seem daunting. Like one person, it can be like, well, what can I do? Like not everybody wants to go on their Twitter, Instagram, and like blast this out. And you don't have to. Like by no means are we saying that like every person has to be an activist. But I think what every person can do who does care about this is start by looking at your immediate interactions, who you interact with, the kinds of things that happen in your circle. So if you, work at a restaurant and you're in charge of hiring people, take a look at who you're hiring. Like, are you hiring men and women equally? If female empowerment is something you care about, look at the ways you can make differences in your life or your circle. And I think it's manageable and doable, and it'll make real changes without you feeling like you're up against the entire world and the entire system.
I think we don't have enough empathy in this world. And I think about this every day. If we can, life is hard for everybody. But if we can be a little more, if every one of us have a little more empathy toward others, especially those who we don't know or don't have connection with, the world will be a better place.
I would say just find your community online. There are so many ways you can find your community online, and find the strength and knowledge to exist as you are. I think arming yourself with knowledge is really important when you're trying to fight prejudice. So I think that's the first step. My community has gone from online to real life. And now I have friends, luckily, I have friends all over the world who I can speak to. And, you know, I think that's the first step for me. When I was feeling really like sad and stuff, I definitely found my like people online, and I was able to come out of that.
Feel free, you know, like just don't care about what people say. If you got the possibility to do whatever you want, just do it. And if you don't have the possibility to do it anyway. You know, maybe it's important to force destiny, maybe, and just to. And if also your goal is like to have like a very calm, quiet life, children, being a mother, that's empowerment too. If you want to be, I don't know, like politic, artists, everything, just feel that everything is possible for you, and that just reach it.